There is a sacred moment in every soul's journey when it finally stops running, not from the world, not from failure, not even from pain, but from itself. A moment so quiet it cannot be heard with the ears, yet so loud it echoes through lifetimes. That is the moment of awakening. And it is not found in striving nor earned through suffering. It comes when you realize this one truth. You cannot move forward holding on. It's a simple sentence, almost forgettable, yet within it lies the entire path to peace, to love, to healing, to liberation. And like all great truths, it doesn't need your agreement to remain true. It only asks for your surrender. But that, for many, is the hardest part, because we cling not only to what hurt us, but to what shaped us. We cling to old identities, to past betrayals, to outdated beliefs, to fear disguised as loyalty, to guilt disguised as love, to pain disguised as purpose. We say we want freedom, but we carry chains of memory around our neck like heirlooms. We say we want peace, but we fuel wars inside our minds with stories of how it should have been, how they should have acted, how we should have known. But life is not lived in the should. It is lived in the now. And now this breath, this moment, this heartbeat is not waiting for you to fix the past. It's waiting for you to release it. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering who you are without the burden. It is not denial. It is deeper acceptance. It is saying, I no longer choose to be bound by what no longer serves the becoming of my soul. And that is not weakness. That is not spiritual bypassing. That is the courage of a soul who has seen the fire walk through the ashes and no longer wishes to carry the smoke. You were not born to carry resentment like a badge. You were not created to wear your pain like identity. You were not placed in this body to rehearse tragedy or cling to stories that diminish your light. You are not the wound. You are not the betrayal. You are not the shame. You are the awareness that sees it, the presence that observes it, the light that transcends it. But that light cannot move if you keep anchoring it to old storms. The past is not a place you live. It is a classroom you pass through. And if you don't leave the classroom, you cannot graduate. If you keep rewriting the same paragraph of pain in your mind, how can the next chapter begin? The story of your life is not meant to be one sentence on repeat. It is meant to evolve, to rise, to grow wings. But first, you must loosen your grip on the weight. Ask yourself gently, what have I been holding on to that is holding me back? Is it an apology I never received? A mistake I made years ago? A love that didn't stay? A parent who never saw me? A self-image rooted in survival but starving my spirit? These things, real as they were, are not real now. They are echoes. And you, dear soul, are not an echo. You are the sound. You are the presence. You are the living, breathing miracle that was never meant to dwell in shadows. The ego will tell you that letting go is losing, that forgiveness is weakness, that your pain is power, and to release it is to betray yourself. But the ego is the voice of fear, and fear is clever but not wise. It will try to convince you that if you let go, you'll lose control. But here's the paradox. Only in surrender do you find real control. Only in release do you find peace. Only in unclenching do your hands become free to receive the gifts of now. There is no freedom in reliving the betrayal. There is no healing in reopening the wound. There is no love in rehearsing your unworthiness. So when will you stop? Not because you're forced to, not because someone told you to, but because your soul is tired of dragging yesterday into today. Because your heart is heavy with stories that no longer speak your truth. Because somewhere deep inside you remember what it felt like to be free before the world told you to be ashamed. Before life convinced you to fear, before you mistook survival for identity. You are not here to survive anymore. You are here to live. Fully, freely, boldly, and living cannot happen in reverse. Release is not a moment. It is a practice, a daily offering of the soul, a choice to say, today I no longer participate in my own imprisonment. It's waking up and gently, without blame, without shame, placing one thought after another on the altar of surrender. It's saying to your mind, thank you for protecting me, but I don't need this story to be safe anymore. I don't need this pain to remind me who I am, because who you are does not come from what hurt you. It comes from what lives beneath the hurt, the silent stillness, the space between thoughts. The observer who never changes, no matter how much your story does, this observer, this divine spark, is always whispering, let it go. Let it go so you can rise. Let it go so you can feel joy without fear. Let it go so you can move forward, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Let it go, not because it didn't matter, but because you do. And that's the heart of it. You matter more than the memory. You matter more than the injustice. You matter more than the approval you never got. Your peace matters more than your need to be right. Your freedom matters more than the familiar pain you've rehearsed for years. But to honor your worth, you must be willing to unclench, to stop worshiping the pain as teacher and begin seeing it as doorway, to stop bowing at the altar of memory and begin dancing in the sanctuary of now. Letting go is not something you do once and forget. It is something you live. It is a frequency you choose, a vibration of lightness, a declaration of trust, trust that you are safe without the story, trust that you are held even in the unknown, trust that the future does not need your wounds to build itself. It only needs your presence. And the present, this sacred, miraculous now, is always whispering, come home. Come home not to who they wanted you to be, but who you were before the world taught you to hold on. Come home to your breath, to your body, to your being. You cannot move forward holding on. Not because you're bad, not because you're broken, but because life is motion and clinging is a form of spiritual paralysis. You were not made to stay stuck. You were made to evolve, to open, to expand. So loosen the grip just a little. Breathe into the space that opens. Trust what rises to the surface. And listen, truly listen to the still voice within that's been waiting, not for your perfection, but for your willingness. The willingness to be free. There is a place beyond thought, beyond pain, beyond identity, where all that remains is awareness, pure, infinite, undivided awareness. It does not grieve the past. It does not fear the future. It does not hold on. It simply is. And this place is you. The eternal you. The you that cannot be damaged by what they said. The you that cannot be diminished by what happened. The you that doesn't seek validation, doesn't chase worth, doesn't collect grievances as proof of identity. That you is still here, beneath the layers, beneath the noise, beneath the stories that you keep recycling, like old photographs, whose colors have long faded, but whose emotional residue still stings. You keep returning to the wound because some part of you believes healing is found in the familiarity of pain. But healing is not found in rereading the same chapter. Healing is found in the decision to close the book. You don't have to destroy it. You don't have to burn the pages. You simply have to stop opening it every morning as if your worth is still written there. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in the space after. And that space, that divine, limitless, quiet space, is where your power has always lived. The power to let go, to forgive, to transcend, not because it makes what happened okay, but because it frees you from the prison of identifying with it. The greatest act of liberation is not marching out into the world demanding change. It is turning inward and saying, I refuse to suffer twice. Once for the event, and again for the memory of it. That is radical freedom. That is soul maturity. That is awakening. To awaken is not to fix yourself. It is to remember you were never broken. It is to gently, lovingly begin removing the masks. The one that says, I am a victim. The one that says, I am not enough. The one that says, I must be strong. by never letting go. Strength is not resistance. It is surrender. It is the surrender of the false self, the one built on defense, on survival, on gripping, so that the true self can emerge. And when it does, oh, how light the world becomes. Because suddenly, you are not walking around armored by trauma. You are walking around open, vulnerable, whole. You are no longer echoing the past in every relationship, every silence, every expectation. You are present, here, awake. And presence, true presence, has no room for yesterday's ghosts. The mind will try to tempt you back. It will whisper, but they never apologized. It will shout, but you were wronged. It will plead, but if you let go, who will protect you? Let it speak. Let it cry. Let it roar. And then smile at it the way you would smile at a child who still believes monsters live under the bed. Because fear is a child, and the ego is its bedtime story. But you are the parent now. You are the one who says, shh, it's okay. We don't need to hold on to that anymore. We don't need to keep the pain to feel safe. We are safe now. We are loved now. We are free now. And in that moment, the soul exhales, because the soul has always known letting go is not loss. It is return. It is the return to your nature, to your wholeness, to the place before fear taught you to close, before shame taught you to shrink, before pain taught you to pretend. You don't have to pretend anymore. Not to be okay, not to be strong, not to be what someone else needed you to be so you could feel loved. Love does not ask for pretending. Love only asks for presence. And presence cannot enter a heart that is clenched. Unclench, let the light in. Let it find the parts of you that still believe pain is proof. Let it bathe the corners of your spirit where old voices still live, repeating old verdicts. You're not worthy. You're too much. You should have known better. Let the light find those voices and show them the door, not with anger, but with compassion. Because they were trying to protect you once. But you don't need protection now. You need truth. You need softness. You need grace. And grace is what arrives when you let go. It does not enter through the door of control. It enters through the window of surrender. It drips down like rain on a dry desert soul, refreshing, forgiving, soothing. And once you felt it, truly felt it, you will never again mistake holding on for strength. So breathe, and as you breathe, feel the weight begin to lift, not all at once, but breath by breath. Let each inhale be a promise. I choose life. Let each exhale be a release. I surrender the rest. Because holding on is not sacred. Letting go is. Holding on is not loyal. Letting go is. Holding on is not love. Letting go is. Love says, I want you to be free, even if you is a version of yourself still stuck in yesterday, even if you is someone who hurt you but doesn't have power over you anymore, even if you is the person you thought you had to be. You don't. You don't have to be anything today except free. And to be free, you must make peace with the fact that the past will never be different. And that's okay. It doesn't need to change for you to heal. It only needs your willingness to no longer carry it as your identity. You are not here to avenge the past. You are here to resurrect the present. You are not here to prove your pain. You are here to embody your light. And that light, oh beloved, that light was never lost. Only hidden beneath layers of thought, of memory, of identification. But light is not destroyed by shadows. It only waits to be uncovered. Uncover it, not tomorrow, not next year, now. Because every day you wait is a day you feed what no longer serves you. Every moment you delay is a moment you remain bound. and you were not born to be bound. You were born to remember you cannot move forward holding on. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because you were never meant to stay in one place, especially not one built from pain. You are fluid, you are ever-changing, you are movement itself. Life through you wants to dance, not dwell, wants to rise, not ruminate, wants to create, not cling. So step into that stream, let go of the banks, trust that where it takes you is exactly where your soul has been trying to go all along. Freedom is not in the future. Freedom is in the decision to stop gripping the past. Let go. Let go, because the moment you do, your soul will rise, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as what it has always been beneath the story, a miracle. And miracles don't hold on, they flow. There comes a moment when the soul is no longer content with just surviving, when getting by, hanging on, and pushing through start to feel like spiritual starvation. When even your most convincing justifications for pain begin to sound hollow in your own ears. This is the moment of divine dissatisfaction, not with the world, not with others, not even with your past, but with the false self you've outgrown. Because pain has an expiration date, but only you can choose to honor it. You are not here to rehearse hurt until it becomes your home. You are here to outgrow it, transcend it, gently set it down like old clothes that no longer fit. And that's the thing about holding on. It often feels like protection when it's really stagnation. It feels like strength when it's really resistance. It feels like identity when it's really avoidance. Avoidance of truth, avoidance of presence, avoidance of the sacred emptiness that comes before transformation. But emptiness is not something to fear. It is the womb of rebirth. The ego will do everything it can to avoid this void. It will bargain, analyze, justify, and distract. It will fill the space with noise, with judgment, with replays and projections, because the ego knows that if you sit in the silence long enough, you will remember who you really are, and the ego cannot survive in that remembrance. Because in truth, you are not the one who was abandoned, betrayed, or rejected. You are the one who witnessed it. You are not the character in the story. You are the light that holds the entire story. You are not the mistake. You are not the regret. You are not the sorrow. You are the sky, and these were only passing storms. So why build a house beneath the clouds? Why stay anchored to a moment that no longer exists? Why continue to argue for your pain as if it gives you meaning? You do not need pain to prove your depth. You do not need sorrow to prove your strength. You do not need struggle to prove your value. You, beloved, are valuable because you exist, not because you endured. You are worthy because you breathe, not because you suffered. This is the cosmic truth. You are already enough, already whole, already free. You only suffer when you forget. And forgetting is easy in a world that teaches you to collect wounds like currency. You are praised for your scars, but not your healing. Admired for your endurance, but not your peace. Celebrated for your hustle, but not your stillness. But healing is not a performance. Peace is not applause, and stillness is not laziness. It is presence. Presence that allows you to finally say, I am ready to let go. Not because I am weak, but because I am done confusing pain with purpose. I am done mistaking familiar for right. I am done feeding a story that keeps me small. The story is not who you are. It's who you were when you didn't yet know how free you could be. And you are learning now. You are beginning to see that the only chains still holding you are the ones you keep feeding with your focus. That memory only has weight when you choose to lift it. That pain only echoes when you keep calling its name. You are beginning to see that letting go is not erasing it, is evolving. You are not deleting the past. You are releasing its grip on your future. You are not abandoning what shaped you. You are honoring what you've outgrown. And just like the tree does not mourn the leaves it sheds each autumn, your soul does not grieve the stories it no longer needs. It rejoices. It dances. It rises lighter into the sky of infinite becoming. Let yourself shed. Let yourself become. Let yourself be free of the need to fix what never needed fixing in the first place, because your worth, your divinity, your light was never broken, only buried. Buried beneath layers of not enough. Buried beneath they don't love me. Buried beneath I failed. Beneath they left. Beneath I should have done more. But you cannot breathe deeply when you are buried in shame. You cannot rise when you are wrapped in guilt. You cannot love when you are still holding on to a version of yourself who was only trying to survive. It's time to rise, not by force, but by release. Not by adding more, but by surrendering what never belonged to your essence. The pain was never yours to keep. The betrayal was never yours to carry. The guilt was never yours to wear. These were experiences, not definitions. Events, not destinies. Chapters, not conclusions. So take a breath, and with that breath, send love to every version of yourself who didn't know how to let go, to the one who stayed too long, to the one who held on too tightly, to the one who thought that by carrying the pain, they were proving something noble, something holy. And then, with your next breath, release them. Let the younger you rest. Let the sorrow be seen, then dissolve. Let the river of now carry away the residue of yesterday, not with effort, with grace, because grace is the rhythm of the soul when it's finally free from pretending. You don't have to pretend anymore, not to be fine, not to be strong, not to be perfect. You only have to be present. And in presence, there is no room for clinging. Clinging requires tension. Holding on creates resistance. But your soul was made for flow, for expansion, for becoming. And all becoming begins with release. This is the paradox of the spiritual path. We rise not by reaching, but by releasing. Not by striving, but by softening. Not by gripping, but by trusting. Trust the letting go. Trust the space that opens when you no longer identify with your pain. Trust the silence that comes when the ego stops shouting. Trust the you that emerges when the past is no longer your mirror. You are not what you lost. You are what remains, and what remains is more than enough. So here you are, standing at the edge of a new moment. A moment untouched by your past, untainted by your fears, and unburdened by your stories. A sacred threshold. And the invitation has never been clearer step forward. But you cannot step forward with clenched fists. You cannot move into light while gripping shadows. You cannot rise in truth while wrapped in yesterday. The soul longs to soar, but it cannot fly while you're still tethered to the anchor of what once was. And so you must choose not with the mind, not with logic, not with fear, but with faith. The faith that what lies ahead is more aligned with who you are becoming than what lies behind. And that is the real miracle of letting go. It's not the disappearance of pain, it's the appearance of peace. It's not erasing the story, it's rewriting your relationship to it. It's not pretending it didn't matter, it's realizing you matter more. You are the main character of your life, not the villain of someone else's. You are the author, not the victim. You are the creator, not the captive. But to create, to author, to move you, must put the old pen down. The one that only knows how to write in grief. The one that only sketches in scarcity. The one that doesn't yet believe in your joy. Hold your own hand now. And let the sacred in you rise up and say, no more. No more giving my energy to what cannot love me back. No more feeding the past with the power of the present. No more trading my future for familiar suffering. And in that vow, that sacred, silent vow, you are born again. Not into perfection, but into permission. Permission to love without fear. Permission to forgive without conditions. Permission to be whole without apology. There is nothing noble in keeping your pain alive. You do not need to honor it by repeating it. You do not need to prove your endurance by wearing it. What you went through shaped you, yes, but now your liberation will define you. The ego will say, but if I let go, who am I? And the soul will whisper, finally, yourself. The self that is free of shame, because it remembers that mistakes are part of growth. The self that is free of resentment, because it recognizes that carrying poison does not heal the wound. The self that is free of the need to perform, to prove, to punish, because it has finally come home. And home is not a destination. It is a state of being, a return to presence, a return to peace, a return to the divine. And that's what letting go truly is. It is a return, not a loss, not an ending, not a giving up, but a homecoming, a sacred reunion with your true nature. And in that reunion, there is no room for guilt, no room for proving, no room for replaying what already happened 1,000 times in your mind. There is only breath. And this breath, this holy inhale and exhale, it does not live in yesterday. It does not carry your story. It does not ask who was right. It only asks, are you here? And so I ask you now, are you here? Are you in this breath? Or still lost in a moment that no longer exists? Are you ready to rise? Or still bargaining with a version of yourself that was built on survival? Are you willing, not perfectly, not forever, just in this moment, to let go? To let go of the old pain, not because it wasn't real, but because your healing is more important. To let go of the resentment, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. To let go of the story, not because it didn't shape you, but because it no longer defines you. You are allowed to be new. You are allowed to walk away from the pain. You are allowed to lay down the guilt. You are allowed to stop carrying your suffering as proof of your worth. You are allowed to be light. And so, in this moment, choose. Choose freedom over familiarity. Choose peace over performance. Choose presence over pain. Let go. Let go. Let go. Not just once, not just today, but as a practice, a rhythm, a way of life. Because this moment, this sacred now, is waiting for you, and it has no room for what you refuse to release. So unclench, exhale, come home to yourself, and remember, you cannot move forward holding on. But the moment you let go even just a little, the universe moves with you. The stars lean closer, the wind shifts, and your path, once clouded by grief, opens with grace. This is your time, not to forget who you were, but to become who you are. Not to avenge your past, but to embody your peace. Not to prove your story, but to live your truth. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your ego. You are not your fear. You are the light that has waited patiently beneath it all. And now that light is ready to rise. Let it move through you. Let it love through you. Let it speak, dance, sing, weep, awaken. Let it be your truth. Let it be your guide. Let it be your home. Because your soul was never meant to carry the burden of what no longer is. It was meant to live in the beauty of what always was. And what always was is you, free, whole. Now, there comes a moment, not in the noise of ambition or the clamor of the world, but in the gentle hush of being Perhaps when you're watching the sun dip below the horizon or lying awake at 2 a.m. with the weight of your memories pressing on your chest when a whisper emerges from within. It does not shout, it does not beg, it does not reason. It simply reminds you of a truth so profound, so clear, so liberating, that it has the power to shatter every illusion you've mistaken for reality. You are not your story. You are not the child who was overlooked. You are not the lover who was betrayed. You are not the job you lost, the diagnosis you feared, the mistake you made in 1997. You are not the divorce. You are not the abandonment. You are not even the name you've been called or the narrative you've repeated so many times it's memorized in your bones. You are none of it. You are that which remains when the story ends. You are that which watches the story unfold and still knows peace. You are that which was never born and can never die. Let that sink in. Let it soften the armor you've wrapped around your spirit. Because the greatest lie you've ever believed is that you are what happened to you. That the pain of your past is your identity. That your suffering has carved the full shape of your being. But the truth, the eternal, irrevocable, sacred truth, you are not what hurt you. You are what survived. But let me take you even deeper than survival. Let's go beyond endurance, beyond coping, beyond scars. You see, even healing becomes a trap if it's only about repairing what was broken. Because your soul, the real you, was never broken to begin with. Only the ego wounds. Only the false self clings to hurt like a flag planted on a battlefield, declaring, "This is who I am." But the battlefield was only ever a dream. The war, imagined. And the moment you awaken, truly awaken, you realize the past cannot hold you unless you reach back to carry it. So I offer you this today, not as philosophy, not as poetry, but as liberation. Give up your personal history. Not by denying it, not by forgetting it, not by numbing or escaping or covering it in positive affirmations. No, give it up by seeing through it, by recognizing it for what it is. A collection of interpretations, conditioned thoughts, inherited beliefs, and emotional echoes that no longer have any reality beyond the attention you give them. You are not obligated to drag your history behind you like a rusted anchor. You do not owe your story, your life. Let it go. Let the character dissolve. Let the identity unravel like mist under the morning sun. Because the sun has always been there, radiant, whole, untouched by the clouds that once hid its light. That sun is you, the real you. The unconditioned, unrepeatable, divine spark of consciousness that exists before time, before thought, before memory. And here's the most miraculous part. Once you stop carrying your personal history, the present moment becomes enough. More than enough. It becomes sacred. The now does not require your pain. The now does not need your resume of suffering. The now only asks for your presence full, open, alive. In this now, there are no titles, no traumas, no trophies, no blame, no shame. Only the pulse of existence, steady and silent beneath it all, reminding you you are free. But you must choose it. Freedom is not the absence of chains, it is the refusal to keep wearing them when your hands have always held the key. The mystics were never trying to teach you to become something more. They were pointing you back to what you already are. Not a story, not a persona, not an identity defined by experience, but a field of awareness, a centerless love, a witness to all things, untouched by all things. Your history only exists in your mind. It is not happening now, and if it is not happening now, it is not real unless you resurrect it with your focus. The ego thrives on this resurrection. It feeds on retelling, on re-identifying, but your soul does not. Your soul is only interested in your awakening, not your repetition. So I ask you, gently but firmly, with love, how much longer will you carry something that weighs you down when you were made to soar? How much longer will you defend the story, protect the wound, argue for your limitation. Every time you say, this is just who I am because of what happened, you reinforce a prison whose walls are built from illusion. But every time you say, I choose to be who I truly am beyond my history, you dissolve those walls. You are not what you remember. You are what is aware of remembering. And in that awareness, there is no pain, no regret, no label, only spaciousness, light, stillness. You are not the echo. You are the silence from which all sound comes. This is not just spiritual poetry. This is truth. Truth that has been spoken in temples and forests, under stars and within hearts since before written language. Truth that vibrates beneath your every thought, waiting for your surrender, not effort surrender, not striving allowing. Give up your personal history, lay it at the feet of eternity, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. Because the presence of who you really are is too vast to be contained in a single story, a single lifetime, a single identity. And here's what happens when you let go. You return, not to a version of yourself from before the pain, but to the self that has never left, the self that watched it all unfold, the self that never needed to be healed because it was never wounded, the self that is the essence of love. You return home, home not as a place, but as a state of being, a state beyond thought, a state of grace. And from this place, you will begin to see differently. You will see others not through the lens of your pain, but through the eyes of compassion. You will no longer seek revenge through resentment, but peace through forgiveness. You will recognize that everyone has a story, and most of us are just trying to survive ours until we remember we can give it up. Not as an act of forgetting, but as an act of liberation. You don't erase your story. You transcend it. You rise above it like a bird from the ashes, wings outstretched, heart unburdened. You look down and bless it, all the pain, the joy, the confusion, and you thank it, not because it was good, but because it brought you here. And here, this moment is where eternity lives. There is a sacred wisdom that begins to arise once you have laid down the heavy garments of the past. It doesn't shout, nor does it declare itself with fanfare. It hums softly, like a river remembering its way to the ocean. It stirs in your chest like a wind through the trees, whispering, now you can begin to live. Not survive, not perform, not defend or explain. Live as the essence of your being, unfiltered, unapologetic, untouched by the smudges of history. And as you live from this essence, you begin to see with new eyes. The kind of seeing that doesn't rely on the senses, but emerges from the stillness beneath them. You begin to notice how often people speak from their wounds, how the volume of their anger masks the silence of their pain. And something extraordinary happens. Your judgments soften. You no longer react with fire, you respond with light. Because once you are free of your own story, you become free from the need to fix, fight, or prove anything. You begin to live as a presence, not a persona. There is a clarity that rises from within, like the morning sun, illuminating not only the path ahead, but the path within. You stop asking the world to validate your existence. You stop searching the eyes of others for approval. You stop chasing achievement like a substitute for peace. You realize that nothing external can define what was never external to begin with. And in that space, quiet, vast, eternal, you begin to feel your true nature emerge, not as a self-concept, but as a living experience, not something to describe, but something to become. You no longer seek truth as a destination. You are the truth, unveiled. The mind, of course, will try to return you to the familiar. It will whisper, but don't forget what they did. Don't forget what you've been through. Don't let go too easily, because the mind has built a temple out of the past, and it fears that in tearing it down, you will become nothing. But becoming nothing is the beginning of becoming everything. When the false self dissolves, there is no loss, only expansion. Like the moment a drop of water merges with the ocean and forgets it was ever separate, there is no fear in this merging. There is only the remembrance of the eternal. So you begin to walk through your life differently. You walk without the need to narrate. You walk without rehearsing comebacks or justifications. You walk as space, as openness, as awareness in motion. You stop reacting to life like a trapped animal clawing at the past and instead become a mirror to it, reflecting without distortion, embracing without grasping, releasing without resistance. And in this new way of being, time itself starts to shift. You no longer feel pulled by yesterday or pushed by tomorrow. You live in the river of now, where everything is flowing and nothing is held. You begin to notice that peace is not a result of circumstances aligning. Peace is what remains when your need to control them dissolves. You discover that love is not something to earn or negotiate. Love is what you are when the fear of unworthiness evaporates. And joy? Joy is not in the having, the getting, the achieving. Joy is in the being. It bubbles up naturally from the spaciousness of a heart that is no longer carrying the debris of 1,000 unlived moments. The soul does not keep score. It does not replay the past in high definition. It is always now, always here, always free. And so your life becomes less about becoming and more about remembering, less about striving and more about aligning, less about effort and more about surrender. You begin to touch life directly, without the veil of the story. You drink the moment like water in a desert, not because you are desperate, but because you are present. And that presence heals, not by fixing anything, but by seeing it clearly, lovingly, without agenda. You begin to realize that healing isn't about returning to a former version of yourself. It's about awakening to the self that was never wounded. This self doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't compete. It doesn't seek permission. It simply is like the sky, like light, like the rhythm of your own breath when you're finally still enough to hear it. This self is not interested in what others think of you. It's not here to impress, but to express fully, naturally, without fear. You see, giving up your personal history is not erasure, it's resurrection. It's the rising of the authentic self from beneath the rubble of who you thought you had to be. And from that resurrection comes a power that is unlike anything the ego could ever imagine. It's the power of being anchored in your own soul, immovable in truth, soft in spirit, radiant with love. You begin to see the beauty in the ordinary because you are no longer waiting for something to complete you. The sunrise becomes a miracle again, the wind on your face, a prayer. A quiet moment alone becomes communion with the infinite. And even pain, when it arises, is no longer a punishment. It is a teacher, sacred, temporary, pointing you back inward. You feel it, honor it, but you no longer become it. The story is no longer who you are. It's just something you once carried. And now your hands are open. You start to realize that forgiveness was never about the other person. It was about unclenching your fist, about setting down the burning coal you've been gripping for years, thinking it would hurt them. But it only ever scorched your own peace. And in releasing that, you don't lose power. You reclaim it. You no longer define your strength by how well you endure suffering, but by how deeply you embody presence, how softly you can stand in truth, how effortlessly you can be light in a world that forgets its own brilliance. So let go. Let go not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. Let go not because you've stopped caring, but because you've stopped carrying what was never yours to hold. Let go because something greater is trying to live through you, and it cannot flow through a clenched past. Release the old roles, the victim, the fighter, the abandoned, the betrayed, and make space for what is real, what is vast, what is you. You are not here to replay. You are here to remember. Remember what the trees already know, that letting go is not death. It is the way to blossom. Remember what the stars whisper each night, that even the dark is full of light waiting to be seen. You are not here to be a character in a story of pain. You are here to be the storyteller, awake, aware, and free. Let the story go and let the soul rise. The universe does not remember your wounds. It remembers only your light. It holds no record of your betrayals, your heartbreaks, your failures. That's the domain of the mind, a mind conditioned by fear, by comparison, by repetition. The mind keeps files, the soul keeps silence. And it is in that silence where you will finally hear the truth. You were never meant to carry it all. Not the names they called you, not the moments you stumbled, not the years you spent trying to make someone stay, trying to prove you were enough, trying to be more of who you are not. You were never asked to be perfect, only to remember that perfection was never the point. Your worth was never in question except by an ego that thrives on forgetting. And as you come back into the awareness of who you truly are, you begin to loosen your grip on that heavy narrative, the one stitched together from other people's opinions, from your own moments of fear, from the echoes of a childhood still trying to be heard. But healing does not come from adding more layers. It comes from peeling them away until only love remains. Love not as an emotion, but as a state of being, as the substance of your soul, as the current beneath every breath you take when you're finally still enough to feel it. And in that stillness, something sacred happens. The need to explain yourself evaporates, the need to justify your pain, to rehash your memories like mantras of survival, it dissolves. And in its place rises a gentle clarity, not loud, not dramatic, but unwavering. A clarity that says, I am not what happened to me. I am not the role I played. I am not the one who was left, nor the one who lost. I am not a character in a painful story. I am the awareness watching it unfold, the vast presence in which all things come and go, but which itself remains untouched. The soul was never bruised by the drama of the past. It watched patiently as you wandered through those illusions, waiting only for the day you would stop searching for home and remember that you are home, that you have always been, that nothing needed fixing, only seeing. And the moment you see clearly, you let go, not out of force, not out of discipline, but because truth has no weight and illusions fall away on their own. You let go of the need to be understood because you understand yourself. You let go of the need to revisit every wound because you've realized the wound is not you. It was only the doorway through which you would eventually remember your wholeness. You let go of needing the world to affirm you because the divine already has. You let go of needing the story to make sense because peace is not found in understanding. It is found in surrender. And in that surrender, you begin to remember a different kind of history, not one of pain and survival, but of truth and eternity. You begin to remember the part of you that was never born and will never die, the part that watched you stumble with compassion, never judgment, the part that waited for you to awaken without urgency, without blame. Because time is not a threat to the soul. It does not rush, it does not regret. It simply unfolds perfectly, purposefully, until even your mistakes become sacred milestones on the way back to yourself. Every soul arrives here cloaked in a dream, and the dream feels real. We are born into a world of names and roles and rules, and somewhere along the way we forget the vastness we came from. We forget that we are not the name they gave us, not the grades we earned, not the approval we chased. We forget that our value was written long before any of that. And so we start collecting titles, identities, wounds, moments of praise and shame, little victories, quiet heartbreaks, and before long, we start mistaking that collection for who we are. But none of it is you. You are not the mask. You are not the armor. You are the light behind the eyes, the breath beneath the thought, the space between every word. You are the formless awareness that was present before the story began, and that will remain long after it ends. To give up your personal history is not to erase your past, but to transcend it. It is to rise above the timeline and remember that you are not the actor, you are the sky where the play unfolds. You are the one who has always watched, always witnessed, always known, even in your most lost moments. A deeper part of you never wavered. It waited, it whispered, it loved you through every illusion you clung to. And when you were ready, it called you home. That call may come in a moment of stillness or in the chaos of grief. It may come in a hospital bed, a heartbreak, a sunrise, or a silence so deep it rattles the bones of your identity. But when it comes, you will know, because it doesn't come from fear. It comes from truth. And truth doesn't shout, it resonates. It moves through you like a memory you never knew you had. A memory of freedom, of weightlessness, of peace that asks for nothing. And in that moment, you don't need to fix anything. You don't need to prove anything. You simply remember that none of the story was ever who you are. And with that remembering comes power. Real power. The kind that doesn't need to control because it already is. The kind that doesn't need to resist because it flows. The kind that doesn't need to speak loudly because it vibrates through every cell of your being. That power is the light of your soul reclaiming its place at the center of your life. So let it in. Let it burn away the layers. Let it dissolve the labels. Let it lift the veil of who you thought you had to be. You are not here to maintain a narrative. You are here to awaken from it. You are not here to repeat the story of your pain. You are here to rewrite reality with the ink of your presence. And presence begins the moment you stop dragging the past behind you like a shadow and start walking as the light you've always been. When you begin to live without dragging your history into every moment, something extraordinary begins to occur. You stop reacting and you start responding. You stop defending and you start allowing. You stop blaming and you begin blessing even the most painful chapters, not because they were just, but because they led you here to this holy recognition of who you are. You begin to see your past not as a prison, but as a teacher, a sacred curriculum written by your soul for one purpose, awakening. Every heartbreak carved space for more compassion. Every rejection redirected you toward alignment. Every delay protected you from what you couldn't yet understand. And now that you can see it clearly, you no longer curse the path, you bow to it. This is not passive, this is not resignation, this is divine participation with the unfolding of your life. You move with it now instead of against it. You surrender, not as a form of defeat, but as an act of power. Because only a truly free being can say, I no longer need the story to be different in order to be whole. Only one who has touched the eternal within can say, I release the need to edit my past because I no longer live in it. And with that, the great unraveling begins. The old timelines dissolve. The characters that haunted you fade into light. You no longer carry the ghost of your younger self into your relationships, into your choices, into your self-concept. You do not introduce yourself with a list of past sorrows. You walk into each new moment with nothing to prove and everything to offer. Can you imagine the peace of that kind of being? Can you feel the relief of no longer having to convince anyone, not even yourself, that you are worthy, lovable, safe, and free? That is the invitation of now. That is the gift of letting go. Because when you give up your personal history, you give up the idea that your story was ever more real than your soul. You trade the weight of memory for the weightlessness of being. You begin to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. And that changes everything. It changes how you speak, your words become medicine. It changes how you listen, your presence becomes a sanctuary. It changes how you move, not with haste, but with grace. Not with striving, but with trust. And in that trust, you feel the arms of the universe holding you. You recognize that you were never navigating this path alone. You were being led, guided, whispered to in 1,000 invisible ways, even when you felt abandoned, even when the road seemed dark. And now you can look back and say with reverence, even in the silence, I was being sung to. And when you finally say yes fully, without resistance, without the temptation to look back and explain yourself again, something ancient in you exhales. It's the part of you that never wanted to wear the armor, never felt at home behind the masks, never resonated with the noise of trying to become something in a world that forgot how to simply be. That part, your soul has always been waiting for you to drop the script. It has never needed the applause. It only ever needed your permission. Permission to step forward without dragging the whole story with it. Permission to let love speak louder than memory. Permission to move through this life not defined by what happened to you, but defined by what is true within you. And what is true within you is not wounded. It is not bitter. It is not broken. It is brilliant, boundless, breathtaking in its silence, and it begins to speak in the absence of noise. When you no longer speak from pain, you begin to speak from power, not a power that dominates, but one that liberates, a presence that reminds others of their own freedom just by standing still. Because the greatest healing you can ever offer this world is the fullness of your presence free from the past. That's how you become a healer, not by fixing, not by saving, but by being. By embodying the truth that you are already whole, already loved, already divine, and from that space, everything else is just grace in motion. Now you walk into the room, and you don't need the story to precede you. You let your energy arrive instead. You let your kindness speak. You let your stillness hold space. And it is enough, more than enough. It is everything. Because that is the truth of who you are. Without the history, without the narrative, without the script, you are light walking in form. You are love remembering itself. You are the breath of the divine made visible. And so, beloved one, give up your personal history, not to forget who you were, but to finally remember who you are. Give it up like a weight placed at the feet of the eternal. Give it up like an offering, not with sorrow, but with reverence. Let it go the way a tree lets go of its leaves, not in despair, but in trust that something new is always waiting to rise. This is the moment. This is your now. And now is not a reflection of your past, it is a portal into your truth. Step through it, step free, step whole. So let the old story fall behind you like dust. Let it scatter into the silence that gave it form. Let every version of you that once needed it rest now, honored but no longer held. You do not abandon your past by letting it go. You transmute it, you sanctify it, you turn every scar into sky. And when the sky is clear, you can finally see the light that was never gone, only hidden behind the clouds of memory. And when that light returns, or rather when you return to it, you begin to walk differently. You speak as one who has no debt to yesterday. You breathe as one who has nothing to prove. You offer your heart not as a resume of pain, but as a field of peace. You become the still point in a spinning world, not because you escaped your history, but because you stepped outside of it. You chose presence over performance. You chose truth over trauma. You chose to live as though now is holy because it is. And the world feels that. It responds. It softens. The universe begins to bend in the direction of your surrender, because now you're no longer resisting what is. Now you are allowing life to live you. And that is where miracles begin. That is where healing flows. That is where love becomes not something you seek, but something you are. So take one final breath as the one who carried it all. And as you exhale, let it fall. Let the story return to the wind. Let the weight roll off your shoulders. Let the identity you wore like armor become ash. You don't need it anymore. You never did. What remains is truth. What remains is love. What remains is you naked, luminous, divine. This is not an ending. This is a homecoming. You are free now. You always were.